The dust settled on Redemption Creek as Isabella Martinez stepped off the stagecoach, her emerald dress a stark contrast against the weathered wooden buildings. The town whispered secrets through its creaking saloon doors, and none louder than those surrounding Jake Thunder Morrison, a man whose reputation preceded him like lightning before a storm. Isabella clutched her father's letter, the one that had summoned her to this god-forsaken place to settle his debts. The Dusty Rose Saloon loomed before her, its bat-wing doors swinging hypnotically in the desert breeze. She needed answers, and rumor had it that Jake Morrison held them all. Inside, the air hung thick with tobacco smoke and broken dreams. Piano keys tinkled a melancholy tune while cowboys nursed their whiskey like wounded pride. Then she saw him, broad shoulders stretching his leather vest, dark hair curling beneath a black Stetson and eyes that could melt silver dollars. Jake's gaze found hers across the crowded room, and Isabella felt her breath catch like a wild mustang in a lasso. He moved with the fluid grace of a predator, his spurs singing a dangerous melody against the wooden floor. The other patrons seemed to fade into shadows as he approached. "You must be Martinez's daughter." His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "I've been expecting you." Isabella lifted her chin defiantly, though her heart hammered against her ribs like a caged bird. "Mr. Morrison, I presume I've come about my father's gambling debts." Jake's lips curved into a smile that promised both salvation and damnation. "Your daddy owed me more than money, señorita. He owed me a piece of his soul." The tension between them crackled like a campfire, and Isabella found herself drawn to this dangerous man despite every instinct screaming warnings. His leather gloves creaked as he removed them, revealing calloused hands that spoke of hard work and harder living. "What exactly did my father promise you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the saloon's din. Jake leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. "A partnership. Your daddy had a map to the richest silver vein in Arizona territory. Problem is, he took that secret to his grave." Isabella's mind raced. She knew nothing of any map, but something in Jake's eyes told her he believed she held the key to his fortune. The scent of his cologne, leather, sage, and something indefinably masculine, made her dizzy. "I don't know anything about a map," she protested, but Jake's knowing smile suggested otherwise. "Maybe not consciously, darling, but your daddy was clever. He might have hidden clues where only family would find them." His fingers brushed against her wrist, and electricity shot through her like wildfire. "I propose a partnership of our own." The saloon seemed to hold its breath as Isabella considered his words. This man was dangerous. She could see it in the way other patrons gave him wide berth, in the pearl-handled Colt at his hip, in the predatory grace of his movements. "What kind of partnership?" she asked, though part of her already knew the answer would change her life forever. Jake's eyes darkened with promise. "The kind that benefits us both, señorita. You help me find that silver, and I'll make sure you're well compensated for your time." Isabella felt heat rise in her cheeks. There was something in his tone, something that suggested his idea of compensation went far beyond monetary payment. The way he looked at her, like a man dying of thirst who'd found an oasis, made her feel things no proper lady should feel. "I need time to think," she managed. "Time's a luxury we don't have, darling. Word is the territorial marshal's been asking questions about your daddy's business dealings. Seems some folks think he might have been involved in more than just gambling." The revelation hit Isabella like a physical blow. Her father, a criminal? Impossible. Yet Jake's serious expression suggested this was no jest. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you need protection and I need that map. Marry me, Isabella Martinez, and I'll keep you safe from whatever storm's coming." The proposal hung in the air between them like smoke from a discharged pistol. Isabella stared into Jake's eyes, seeing depths she couldn't fathom, promises she didn't dare interpret. Outside, thunder rumbled across the desert sky, and Isabella wondered if it was nature's warning or nature's blessing. 3 hours later, Isabella stood before Preacher Williams in the tiny chapel behind the saloon, her hands trembling like autumn leaves. Jake's presence beside her was overwhelming, all heat and masculine energy that made her feel like she was standing too close to a forge. The preacher's words seemed to echo from a great distance as Isabella tried to process what she was doing. Marrying a stranger. A dangerous, mysterious stranger whose reputation whispered of appetites that could consume a woman whole. Do you, Isabella Maria Martinez, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Her voice caught in her throat. Jake's hand found hers, his calloused fingers intertwining with her delicate ones. The touch sent shivers racing up her arm like quicksilver. I do, she whispered, sealing her fate. Jake's kiss was nothing like the chaste peck she'd imagined at her wedding. It was fire and demand, possession and promise all rolled into one devastating moment. When he finally released her, Isabella felt like she'd been struck by lightning. Mrs. Morrison, he murmured against her lips, and the title sent heat pooling in places she didn't dare acknowledge. The wedding guests, a motley collection of cowboys, saloon girls, and townspeople, erupted in cheers and catcalls. Someone produced a bottle of champagne, and soon Isabella found herself swept into a celebration that felt more like a fever dream. Jake never left her side, his hand possessive on the small of her back, his eyes promising things that made her pulse race. Every time he leaned close to whisper in her ear, Isabella felt her resolve weakening like sugar in rain. Time to go home, Mrs. Morrison, he said as the evening wore on, his voice rough with something that made her stomach flutter. Home turned out to be a sprawling ranch house on the outskirts of town, all dark wood and masculine furnishings. Jake lit an oil lamp, casting dancing shadows on the walls that seemed to mirror Isabella's turbulent emotions. Nervous? He asked, removing his hat and running fingers through his dark hair. Isabella lifted her chin, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. Should I be? Jake's laugh was low and dangerous. Depends on how adventurous you're feeling, darling. He moved closer and Isabella caught that intoxicating scent again, leather and sage and pure male magnetism. Her breath came in short gasps as he reached up to remove the pins from her hair, letting the dark waves cascade over her shoulders. Beautiful, he murmured, his fingers threading through the silky strands. Like midnight silk. Isabella's knees felt weak. No man had ever looked at her the way Jake was looking at her now, like she was something precious and wild that he wanted to tame and treasure simultaneously. Jake, she whispered, not sure if it was a protest or a plea. I know you're scared, he said, his thumb tracing her jawline. But I promise you, Isabella, I'll take care of you. In every way a man should take care of his wife. The promise in his words made her shiver. She could feel the heat radiating from his body, could see the desire burning in his dark eyes like banked coals ready to burst into flame. What if I disappoint you? She asked, her vulnerability laid bare. Jake's smile was tender and predatory at once. Impossible, darling. You're already more woman than I deserve. His lips found hers again, and this time Isabella didn't resist. She melted into him like butter in a hot skillet, her hands fisting in his shirt as he deepened the kiss. She could taste whiskey and promises on his tongue, could feel the barely leashed power in his embrace. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Jake's eyes had gone almost black with desire, and Isabella felt an answering heat building in her core like a slow-burning fire. There's something you should know, Jake said, his voice strained. About me. About what I need. Isabella waited, her heart pounding like war drums. I'm not like other men, Isabella. My appetites, they run deep, demanding. Some might say I have an addiction to the dance between a man and woman. Understanding dawned, and with it a thrill of fear and excitement. You mean, I mean I'll want you often, darling, in ways that might shock a proper lady like yourself. Isabella felt heat flood her cheeks, but also something else. A dark curiosity that surprised her. Show me, she whispered. Jake's control snapped like a dry twig, and suddenly Isabella found herself pressed against the wall, his mouth claiming hers with desperate hunger. This was no gentle seduction. This was raw need, primal and overwhelming. But just as Isabella felt herself drowning in sensation, the sound of approaching hoofbeats shattered the moment. Jake pulled away, instantly alert. "Stay here," he commanded, reaching for his gun. Through the window, Isabella saw torches approaching, at least a dozen riders, their faces grim in the flickering light. "Jake Morrison," a voice called out. "By order of the territorial marshal, you're under arrest for cattle rustling and murder." Jake's face went hard as granite as he peered through the curtains. "Damn," he muttered, then turned to Isabella with urgent intensity. "Listen to me carefully, darlin'. There's a passage behind the bookshelf that leads to the stable. Take my black stallion, his name's Thunder, and ride hard for Devil's Canyon." Isabella's mind reeled. "But Jake, if you're innocent—" "Innocent?" His laugh was bitter as desert wind. "Sweetheart, I've done things that would curl your pretty hair, but cattle rustling and murder ain't among them." He grabbed a leather saddlebag and began stuffing it with supplies. "This is a setup, and I've got a pretty good idea who's behind it." The sound of boots on the porch made them both freeze. Jake moved with deadly grace, checking his weapons, while Isabella stood paralyzed by the rapid turn of events. "Mrs. Morrison," Jake said, his voice gentle despite the chaos, "I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Looking into his eyes, Isabella saw not the dangerous outlaw the marshal's men sought, but a man fighting for his life, and now fighting for hers too. "Yes," she whispered. Jake's smile was fierce and grateful. "That's my girl. Now in that saddlebag there's a map. Your daddy drew it before he died. He was my partner, not my debtor. We were going to split the silver find 50-50. The revelation hit Isabella like a physical blow. My father was an outlaw? Your father was a dreamer who got in over his head with the wrong people, the same people who are framing me now." Jake pressed a kiss to her forehead, quick and desperate. "The map leads to more than silver, Isabella. It leads to evidence that could clear both our names." The front door exploded inward, and suddenly the house filled with armed men. Jake shoved Isabella toward the bookshelf, his guns already in his hands. "Go!" he shouted, then opened fire. Isabella's hands shook as she found the hidden mechanism. The bookshelf swung inward, revealing a narrow tunnel that smelled of earth and secrets. Behind her, gunfire erupted like deadly fireworks, and she heard Jake's voice roaring defiance. The tunnel led to the stable where Thunder waited, a magnificent black stallion whose eyes held the same wild intelligence as his master's. Isabella had ridden since childhood, but never like this, never with her heart pounding and her new husband's life hanging in the balance. She threw herself onto Thunder's back just as Jake burst from the house, blood streaming from a graze on his temple. More shots rang out as he vaulted onto his horse behind her, his arms coming around her waist like steel bands. "Hold on tight, Mrs. Morrison," he growled in her ear. "This is going to be one hell of a honeymoon." They rode like demons through the night, Thunder's hooves eating up the miles while their pursuers' torches grew smaller behind them. Isabella had never felt anything like the sensation of Jake's hard body pressed against her back, his breath hot on her neck as he guided the horse with expert skill. "There's a line shack in Devil's Canyon," he shouted over the wind. "We can rest there, figure out our next move." But as they crested a ridge, Isabella saw more torches ahead. They were riding into a trap. "Jake!" she cried. He saw it too, cursing creatively as he wheeled Thunder around. But it was too late. They were surrounded, caught between two groups of armed men like prey in a deadly game. "Well, well," called a familiar voice. "If it isn't the newlyweds." Isabella's blood turned to ice as she recognized Sheriff Blackwood, her father's supposed friend, the man who had comforted her at the funeral, who had seemed so concerned for her welfare. "Hello, Isabella," Blackwood said, his smile cold as winter moonlight. "I'm sorry you had to get mixed up in this. Your husband is a very dangerous man." "More dangerous than you know," Jake replied, his voice deadly calm. But Isabella could feel the tension in his body, coiled like a rattlesnake ready to strike. "You killed my father," Isabella said suddenly, the pieces falling into place. "You wanted the map, and when he wouldn't give it to you..." Blackwood's mask slipped, revealing the monster beneath. "Your father was weak. He found the biggest silver strike in Arizona history and wanted to share it with every two-bit prospector in the territory. Some discoveries are too valuable for such democratic ideals. Jake's arms tightened around Isabella. Let her go, Blackwood. This is between you and me. Oh, but she's the key to everything now, isn't she? The grieving daughter who inherited her father's secrets. The innocent bride who can lead us right to the treasure. Blackwood's eyes glittered with greed. Bring them both. Alive. As the men closed in, Jake whispered urgently in Isabella's ear. When I give the signal, slide off Thunder's left side and run for those rocks. Don't look back, no matter what you hear. I won't leave you, Isabella protested. You have to, darling. You're the only one who can clear our names now. The only one who can finish what your father started. Isabella felt tears streaming down her face. In the space of one day, she had found love and was about to lose it. Jake. I know, sweetheart, I know. His lips brushed her ear. Now. Isabella hit the ground running as chaos erupted behind her. Jake's guns blazed like twin stars as Thunder reared and struck out with deadly hooves. She dove behind the rocks just as bullets began flying, her heart breaking with every shot that rang out. But Jake Morrison hadn't survived this long by being reckless. Even as Isabella watched in terror, she saw him using Thunder's superior speed and agility to outmaneuver their attackers, picking them off one by one with deadly precision. The canyon, he shouted, and Isabella saw his plan. Devil's Canyon was a maze of narrow passages and hidden caves, perfect for losing pursuers or making a last stand. They rode hard into the twisting passages, the sound of pursuit echoing off the stone walls like thunder. Isabella clung to Jake, feeling his heart pounding against her back, breathing in the scent of leather and gunpowder and the indefinable essence that was purely him. There, Jake pointed to a narrow opening barely visible in the moonlight. That's where your father hid the real treasure. Inside the cave, Jake lit a torch, revealing walls covered in ancient petroglyphs and something else. Her father's handwriting, carved into the stone itself. Not just a map to silver, but a detailed account of Blackwood's crimes, names and dates and locations that would bring down the corrupt sheriff and his network of accomplices. He knew he was going to die, Isabella whispered, tracing her father's words with trembling fingers. He wanted to protect you, Jake said softly. Everything he did was to give you a future free from Blackwood's influence. Isabella turned to face her husband, this dangerous, mysterious man who had become her whole world in the span of a single day. And what about our future? Jake's eyes burned with an intensity that made her breath catch. That depends on whether you can forgive me for dragging you into this mess. Forgive you? Isabella stepped closer, her hands fisting in his shirt. Jake Morrison, you saved my life. You married me to protect me. You've shown me more passion in one day than I ever dreamed possible. His hands came up to frame her face, thumbs brushing away tears she didn't realize she was crying. Isabella. I love you, she said fiercely. I don't care about your reputation or your past or your appetites. I love you. Jake's control finally shattered completely. He kissed her with desperate hunger, pouring all his fear and relief and overwhelming love into the connection between them. Isabella responded with equal fervor, her body coming alive under his touch like desert flowers after rain. I need you, Jake groaned against her throat. God help me, I need you so much it's like a fever in my blood. Isabella's answer was to pull him down to her, her lips finding his in a kiss that tasted of promises and forever. The danger outside faded away as they lost themselves in each other, their bodies moving together in the ancient dance of love and desire. Jake's hands worshipped her like she was something sacred, and Isabella discovered that her new husband's legendary appetites were matched only by his skill at satisfying them. He played her body like a master musician, building the tension until she thought she might shatter from the intensity. Let go, darling, he whispered against her ear. Let me hear that sweet thunder. And Isabella did let go, crying out as waves of pleasure crashed over her like a desert storm. Jake followed her over the edge, his own release tearing from his throat like a prayer. Afterward, they lay entwined in the flickering torchlight, their bodies slick with the sweat of passion and exertion. Isabella had never felt so complete, so utterly claimed and cherished. "What happens now?" she asked, tracing patterns on Jake's chest. "Now we clear our names and claim our future," Jake said, his voice rough with satisfaction. "Your father's evidence will bring down Blackwood and his whole operation. The territorial governor will have to listen." "And then?" Jake's smile was pure male satisfaction. "Then, Mrs. Morrison, I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you just how deep my appetites run, starting with that silver mine. We're going to be rich enough to build our own empire." Isabella laughed, the sound echoing off the cave walls like music. "Promise me something, Jake Morrison." "Anything, darling. Promise me you'll never stop looking at me the way you're looking at me right now." Jake's eyes burned with love and desire and promises of all the nights to come. "Sweetheart, I'm going to look at you like this until the day I die. And then I'm going to find a way to keep looking at you from beyond the grave." Outside, the sound of pursuit had faded. Blackwood's men had lost them in the maze of canyons, giving the newlyweds time to plan their next move. But for now, in this moment, there was only the two of them, and the love that had blazed to life faster than wildfire. Isabella had come to Redemption Creek to settle her father's debts and found instead a love that would reshape her entire world. She had married a cowboy with legendary appetites and discovered that she had appetites of her own, for adventure, for passion, for the kind of love that poets wrote about and women dreamed of. As Jake's hands began their sweet torment again, Isabella smiled into the darkness. Tomorrow they would face whatever challenges awaited them. Tonight, they would create their own thunder in the desert, a storm of passion that would echo through the canyons of their hearts forever. The legend of Jake and Isabella Morrison was just beginning.